I'm going to be talking about passion and presence with Samantha from the Language of Orgasm. Samantha, can you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are?
Yes, I would be happy to. Thank you. And I am going to read what I wrote because it was so good. All right, I am pulling it up. Give me one moment.
While you're doing that, I'm just going to welcome everyone that's popping in here. I see we have a number of people that are joining. I'm so happy to see all of you here. This is going to be a fascinating conversation today around presence and cultivating it.
Yes, it will be. And passion.
And
So
passion.
I'm Samantha Kindheart. No, that is not my real last name. My godson's mother gifted me that name and I fell in love with it because I do feel like a warrior at heart. Anyway, so I am also a hypnotist and I work with a lot of women on their sexuality. When I say a lot of women, I also work with men too. And let me explain a little bit more about that moving forward. So honestly, not many providers also work with sexuality. So I am someone who does work with sexuality. If you are looking for a mental health professional, that is something to consider. And I run the Language of Orgasm, where women learn to build real sexual confidence. And it's the kind that just doesn't stay in the bedroom. It goes outside of the bedroom too. And I call it TALU for the Language of Orgasm. And it's best known for one thing in particular, and that is dirty talk and the foundation framework of BDSM. Plus other fun things like oral workshops. And why dirty talk? Because the mind is the way in for a lot of people. And the right words are how you reach the kind of orgasmic state that most women are told to stop wanting. And I totally disagree with that. Anyways, here's the truth. I'll give it to you straight. So passion fades for everyone over time, and that is pretty normal. But nothing about you is broken. Your body's just been waiting for the right signal. So you can learn to send that. Anyway, so I have a program over on School Community for women. And I also work with people one-on-one doing Zoom sessions as well. And if you want to go to my website, thelanguageoforgasm.com, I have a free 69 dirty talk phrases that you can grab. And you can also book a calendar session there as well if you want to connect with me for a free 30 minutes discovery call.
Okay. So we have some questions here that I put together and that you've also put together. And so we're going to get into this. And I think that part of my interest in interviewing you was based off of reading Esther Perel's book, The Passion Trap, which I think is a really excellent book that I highly recommend reading because it really explores this concept around passion and fading away. So first of all, how do we create the space for passion and presence to flourish in a relationship without getting stuck in the passion trap?
Yeah. So, well, first of all, you need them both, right? You need to have presence for passion. And also then you need to notice that there's a lack of passion, right? Which is great awareness. I think that sometimes people can judge themselves or judge others, but that's actually really good information that you're aware that this is actually not there, because that means that you can do something about it. You have more control over it, right? And that's like yes, it's like, okay, I don't like this information, but okay, so now we can change it, right? So that gives us more power, more control over our lives. And for me, what I loved doing the deep dive research on the passion is actually, for me, it's purpose. right? So I look at passion as really just purpose, which is basically direction. It's like what you're emotionally charged about, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you love? That is passion. What do you hate? Like that is also great information. And that might be part of your passion. So it's also getting comfortable with the things that you don't like and the boredom. So that's the boredom kind of stage of noticing, all right, there's something off, which happens so much in relationships after a long time, especially for women. And women start to think like, oh, well, I hate him. I hate my husband. Or, there's something wrong with my body. Or I just, yeah, like they go and find a new lover or whatever. But it really is more common than not to just find that boredom, which to me is the desire that has gone, which is the passion in the relationship. And so I think the other misconception is that it's just supposed to just naturally be there.
Hmm.
And that is a lie. That is the biggest lie. That is like primarily the like just when I work with people, literally like one session, I just they realize that it's a lie that they were sold and that they need to do something and that they have more control, and that might be having difficult conversations. It might be doing things that they aren't really used to doing, but it's changing the way that they look at their relationship of, oh, I actually need to do something about this. And it's going to take some work. I don't know how much work, but I'm going to need to put some effort into it. And this is actually the most important asset in my life. So I should do this. Right. And this is a good thing. It's just a lot of society has been sold that it's supposed to just naturally occur. And that is not true. There are uncomfortable conversations. There is conflict. And those are actually really good things because then you're getting the truth. You can do something. The person is like giving you honesty. And so what happens with the presence is you need to be present with the other person, right? To get the passion back, to have or I'm assuming that it's gone, but to have it even increase.
So something that kind of comes to mind here as I hear this is that there's an intersection here between passion and presence, and that intersection is purpose. So if there isn't purpose there in a way, and by purpose, like the purpose of like, oh, I really want to be in this relationship, or I'll use an example from my own personal framework. Like I practice martial arts. Well, there are times where it's really hard. Like there are days where I'm just like, I'm doing the same motion again and again and again.
Yes.
If I didn't feel that sense of passion for it, would I still be doing it? Probably not. But there's purpose there, and that brings the presence. So it's the same thing in a relationship, that if I have this passion and this presence, there's also purpose there. What do you think of that?
Yeah. So the way that I'm hearing you describe it. So first of all, I want to say I like that you brought up martial arts. My background is yoga, so it's very sort of similar. The just different moves in my mind. That's what it is for me. But okay, so the way that when I'm listening to what you're saying, it's like you're saying passion is more the emotion part and that purpose is slightly different.
Yeah, I think so. Like there's the emotional component is the passion. The purpose is kind of the underlying foundation that supports
Mhm.
that emotion.
Yeah, so I can go with that. I can go with that. Like, I think we all have these constructs in our mind, and then it's kind of like breaking that apart of like, oh, what does that mean for you? And then, oh, okay, yeah, I understand what you mean. And then mine is slightly different, but it doesn't mean that either one is wrong. But I like how you said that, how there's a slight difference. For me, in my mind, I'm overlapping the passion and the purpose. And I think that's only because of my background with the 9 essential basic human needs, which has been really a great structure for me to align myself and then align the people that I work with of like, oh, okay, well, all right, what's happening in your life? And then pinpointing the need, and purpose is one of those needs. So that's why I keep overlapping the passion. But yes, the passion is the emotional aspect of it, which can also mean the other side of passion, which is great information of like, all right, this is so mundane or so boring, of like, oh, okay, well, accepting it. Because like when I heard you talking about the martial arts, it's like you accepted it, but you still showed up. And that is beautiful, because denying the emotion, that doesn't help, but accepting it, and that's how you can move through and keep going. Did that make sense?
Oh yeah, no, that
Okay.
makes sense. Thank you. No, that's a great answer. So it's going along with that, my next question is, you know, a lot of people think of that spontaneity is the key to bringing passion into a relationship. Now, I think that spontaneity can be its own trap. So one of the questions that I have is, what's the benefit of scheduling time for sex and dates and other adventures other than just, you know, living in the moment? Because I think there's this common relationship fallacy that you know, scheduling is boring, and that trying to figure out the exact right time to do things is like, you know, is boring. But I actually would think that it brings a little bit of juice into the relationship under the right circumstances.
Yeah. So I'm laughing because this is something it's like almost like a non-negotiable for me, as far as being open-minded about this. I think it is essential to schedule. I do not care how, whatever, it is essential. I do not care if that takes the fun out of it. It is not always going to be fun either. And if you do not prioritize it, well, come on. I mean, we all know what distraction is like. I mean, your phone, we are in direct competition with our phone. So I think, so I also did bodybuilding, which is structure. Okay. That is, you know, eating, drinking on a specific time, checking in, moving my body in precise movement. So it's all structure. And that taught me so much in life to apply. And it is a great thing. I am not always going to like showing up to my coach. Ooh, my screen just went. Okay.
Yeah,
But
I had that happen earlier. It's okay. We're all here. I can still see you.
Awesome. Great. Thanks for letting me know. So it is really important to schedule, even if that is just saying we're going to meet on this day and then we'll figure it out. That's still great. But the thing is, what you mentioned is the trap. Like you see in the movies, like people have these love lives, these great la la la. You know, they're all of a sudden we're in the sex scene. They bypassed all of the. Someone's at my door. Anyways, I'm gonna stay here. So
they bypassed how they got there.
Yeah, and that is scheduling. And the thing is, I think some people, they feel like it should be this like natural ebb and flow of like, oh, I shouldn't have to book with her calendar. I should just like message her and she should be like totally okay to message back and forth 500 times to schedule a time. No, let's just, I advocate we all should have calendars, have a friend zone, send them the link, book. You can even have, all right, I want to meet at this coffee shop. Okay, if you don't like that coffee shop, then where would you like to meet? And you streamline it. I think it's being very efficient with technology that we have access to. And it is also a way to prioritize our relationships, and we should use technology in that sense to have that structure. And the other thing is people also get into another trap of, I should always be in a good mood. Maybe you're not, but you can get yourself into a better mood. And so I work with people on that, and that comes into the responsive desire. Like, I do not feel like doing a lot of things, as I have gotten older as a woman, but I have to come back to the intention of, I'm not going to feel like doing this right now, but the other person is counting on me. So it feels like a little guilty, but not in a negative sense, but like I want to have integrity.
Mhm.
And then also I know eventually it will feel better with the right people. So having the right connections is also important. But I say structure as much as you can, including like your grocery, like everything, structure, have it planned out, because life is going to happen. But the more planning you have, the more stuff more meaning you're going to be able to have with your life, more intention, more direction, and you have more control, which I like. I love it.
So, in a sense, what I'm hearing here, and I think that this is a really important thing to name, is that it creates a sense of like there's boundaries, there's in scheduling, and so there's a sense of safety.
Yes. And I know that this person is also giving me their schedule. So it's also, you change the way you think about it, right? It's that mindset that people talk about. This person's giving me access to their schedule, their time. That's a good thing.
No, definitely. And I think that there's something to be said for the fact that, like, if I feel if I can give somebody, or if I can be given that same sense of safety, like it's like, okay, then we can truly be here right now. As opposed to, okay, well, maybe I'll get a hold of you today and we'll go on a spontaneous adventure, but we don't know for sure. There's not that same sense of safety. And I think that this is something that I've observed about, I think, people in general, but I will say this in regards to women, that women respond better when they have this space where they can fully land in their physiology and being and be fully present, because they know that they're being received. There's an interesting thing, we talk about penetration and reception. Well, what I've observed is that women do like to penetrate. They penetrate emotionally. They penetrate in other ways. Yes, they may want to be penetrated, but in order for them to be penetrated, first they need to be penetrated, or they need to be able to penetrate. They need to be able to penetrate the men. They need to be able to penetrate that space. They need to be received so they can feel safe.
Yeah. I like how you said that. Yeah. I love that. And I totally agree with you. I love women so much. And I think like the way you describe that is so true, but they won't admit it. But yeah, I mean, that's fine. Whatever. Okay. We'll move on. I'll admit it for them. Okay. Anyways, but yes, having that safety is so important. And that, I think, is where you have the scheduling, because women also we want that deep, undivided attention from the person that we are connecting with. It is really important. Women love it. They love that undivided attention from their lover. And that is the scheduling, which is the presence. that you talk about, because look, we have lives. We need to make money, or some of us love making money, which is great. But we also want a relationship. So scheduling is how you do it. And that is the thing that I am not open to. I fully say schedule, schedule, schedule as much as you can in your life, because it gives you more freedom. It builds that trust. Oh, this person wants to actually connect with me on a precise time, in a precise location, with some sort of intention, whatever that is. And then, that's when, that's the penetration, she's showing up for. And then she's able to receive the penetration from her lover. And that is when you have the orgasm, right? In the body, right? Because of this safety, she's able to actually relax. And a lot of women, they love that. It also gives them that control. And that is the presence which is needed for the passion to be in the relationship. And the thing is, I think it's not, I don't want to like blame people for the lack of passion. I think it's really the fact that the programming from society has conditioned a lot of us to kind of think that it should just be automatic with this spontaneity, which is just not how a lot of women physiology are made up. Like, we can just say women should be spontaneous and say it should be like that, but that is just, the reality is this is what we need. So let's figure out how we can make it happen.
Well, and to your point, I think that there's something really powerful about the freedom that scheduling can bring. I mean, as an example, this will be a very mundane example, but it's a perfect point. I have martial arts 3 nights a week. On Friday nights after martial arts, I go in a grocery shop. I have that scheduled in then. Well, what does that do for me? It's like, okay, I know I'm going to martial arts, then I'm going to go grocery shop. It frees up the rest of the week for other things in the evening. It frees up, it allows me to focus on that one activity. And I know that that's the one day out of the week I'm going to go and do the grocery shopping. And all of you are on here are probably thinking like, okay, well, what does this have to do with presence and passion and all this other stuff? But it's that I'm able to be fully focused in that moment to do the grocery shopping. Well, then I can be focused in other ways when I'm with other people or with other things, because I've created that very specific space and container in my life for when this activity happens. And I'm not thinking about this activity all the time. Very mundane example, but I think it's a very real and powerful example that speaks to how this can create the space and the connection and the intimacy that people want to have in relationship. And often they're trying to get through spontaneity, when in fact that spontaneity may be working against them, because there isn't that feeling of, I'm going to say feeling of mutual safety, because I do think that men also want to feel safe. It's just that men don't talk about it very often, but there is a very real desire to feel safe and connected. And it's important to acknowledge that as well.
Yeah, so I want to touch on a couple things that you mentioned. Number one, I agree that men really want that safety. And the fact that I don't think that that is discussed more often is also another issue. I think that men actually crave that more, but it's not maybe socially acceptable, right? And I think it's also an honor to receive that as a woman, but a woman could be kind of like put off, like, ooh, what, am I like some like barbarian? Because it's like, oh, the woman's supposed to be like, not like a perpetrator or whatever. Anyways, but I think the fact that, owning the safety that's needed for a man more and framing it in a way that can be communicated so that it is heard for their lover, I think would be ideal so that they receive the respect and the safety that they need. But also going back to your beautiful example with the grocery shopping, number one, it is taking care of your needs. If your needs are not taken care of, like eating, and you're somehow making choices to fuel your body that aren't exactly how you would like to have your body fueled, that's like, creating maybe a negative emotion. It's impacting your survival need of what you're consuming in your body. And it also, like, say if you want to entertain or cook, right? It gives you that ability of like scheduling what you're going to buy, right? So it gives you more of this ability to also plan with other people because you have that foundation set for yourself. And I think using food and sex a lot of times in a lot of different ways is a really great example with sexuality and food as an example, like in all kinds of ways.
So let's explore this a little bit further in a different direction.
Sure.
Sometimes I think, let's say we're in the moment, we're in the container, we're having the experience, but then dun dun dun, the dreaded phone shows up, right? Oh no. Like, I don't know about you, but I've had experiences where I was with somebody on a date and all of a sudden the phone rang and all of a sudden their face is planted in that phone and that's the only thing they're looking at. What is one thing that you would recommend that someone say in that kind of situation to say, I'd like your attention, because basically they're no longer present.
Yeah. So, well, there's a couple things. We each have a different kind of rule with the phone, right? So my rule and another person's rule for the phone, they can be different. And I think it is taking into consideration the fact that each person, it's just kind of like diet, right? Like going back to the food example, what you eat and what I eat, they may be very different, but we're still allowed to choose what we want to eat. But in sort of like that with the phone. So that would be a question if this is someone new in your life, right? You've just met them maybe the first time out, second time out, or less than 4 times, right? And the phone has come up and say, for you, it matters to you to have their attention, right? I would say, it's something that I really want. How can we figure out a way so that I have your attention? I would ask that, but I would say it in a way of like, in a grounded space, a grounded place of like, versus emotional, like, oh, you're the phone. Come on, girl. Like, put that away. Like, what are you doing? Of like a ground, like, of, I want to connect with you. I want to see your face, right? Coming from that space of like, I want to enjoy your company. And when you're on your phone, it is great that you're taking care of your things, but I also want to be more connected with you. So how could we figure this out together, right? So maybe it's coming up with a plan with that person so that maybe a time needs to be changed, right? Because it could be a bad time. And maybe the person's just like, oh, well, thanks for telling me. Yeah, I can do it late. I can meet you later. I don't need to be on my phone then, right? So maybe it's just a scheduling issue. And, it also gives you a lot of clarity of how receptive this other person is to you, right? Are they going to listen? Are they going to be defensive? How are they going to respond? Because that's great information also to move forward. Like, does this person even care about what I'm saying, or are they just like, whatever, bye, I'm gonna do my phone, excuse you. Like, then okay, well, thank you for letting me know, excuse you too, or whatever. It's good information. So I would say that if it matters to you, like, I can use my own example. I schedule with my girlfriends on a consistent basis of, because I like to have female friends in my life that I'm very close to, and I want to know all about them, and I want them to know all about me, and I have it scheduled. Some of them it's once a week, some of them it's every other week, right? And I have some where it's just a phone call, right? We're on the phone and we're talking, and it's a hard stop after 60 minutes. For some of them, it's a phone call and we don't have a hard stop. For some of them, they want to meet with me on Zoom. So it's like this, right? I am flexible with that. So it's also knowing, where are you flexible to meet this other person? Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, no, I think that there's something actually really powerful about that. It's like, how do we mutually meet each other is kind of the question that comes to mind,
Yeah.
because if we look at passion and presence, I think that this is one of the things. It's like, how do we mutually meet each other, as opposed to just one person meeting the other person, or one person striving to get to the other person. What I would observe, this example kind of brings it out, is that a lot of times there is this tendency to think like we have to get to, like, one person has to exert the passion and presence to get the other person. And that actually is what creates that passion trap, because then at that point you have basically the one person being pursued and the other person being the pursuer. It's like the old cartoon with Pepe Le Pew, right? Chasing after the female skunk or whatever. And she's just like, no, get away from me. And he's just like, keeps chasing after her. He doesn't get it, that in fact, that's not really passion. It's actually killing the passion.
Yes, I agree. That's a great example. So the thing with the language of orgasm is really where I say it's teaching women to advocate for their vagina. Okay. And it's having those conversation of like, okay, well, what do you need? What do I need? Because each person needs a little bit different. And then it's like, well, and then saying, okay, well, I need actually, like, when I met with you, I was like, can we meet 5, 10, 15 minutes before? And I asked for that, and I was okay if you also told me no, but it was me speaking for what I needed. Whereas, like, say somebody else, doing a live, like maybe they needed, an hour, right? And you would be like, well, no, I can't do that. Or, I'm just saying, like, it's really just owning what you need and then voicing it. And I think that is one, figuring out what that is, and then speaking it so that the other person can hear you. And it also respects when we speak it, we're respecting the relationship because we're not hiding it. Mm-hmm. Which creates that Pepe Le Pew, which nobody really likes, because both people are, upset and annoyed with each other in a different way.
Well, and it's just not genuine passion. It's delusion. I think of in that regards, because it's that Pepe Le Pew is like the perfect example of the inattentive masculine, where it's like he thinks he's being attentive, but actually what he's really doing is he's just projecting his desires and wants onto her in a way that is unhealthy and toxic. And what he's not doing is actually paying attention and fully receiving her. If he were to take the time to receive her, then he might act and get curious about her. he might actually discover the presence and passion that he wants. And a huge part of it is he's not curious. This is one of the things that I actually think is an important part of relationships is can we be okay together? Can we be mutually curious about each other? Because to be in a relationship requires curiosity. Can I be curious about this person each and every day? If you want passion in your life, there needs to be curiosity. And curiosity means you have to let go of thinking that you know everything about this person or that you know what they want.
Yes. And I love how you said that. And so a couple things is it's going back to the Pepe Le Pew, it's training each other to be different. So, and I know a lot of people, they don't like the word training, but I think it says a lot, and it's training yourself, training the other person for a different dynamic. And the curiosity of the person right now. Because when people meet, if they've been in a long-term relationship, who we were then, a year ago, 6 months ago, that isn't right now. And that's the only important thing for people, which is the presence and the passion. And then I want to speak to one other thing with the presence. By scheduling, you're able to be present, and having the expectation of yourself or another person to be present all the time, that's not possible. Like, we need relaxation, we need to do other things in our life, but creating the scheduling for the presence, you are able to put down the phone, because it's not, you know that you can go back to your phone afterwards. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Which
for sure.
gives the passion, which gives each person the ability to be curious.
Yeah. Now, speaking about dynamics, before we went live, one of the things that we talked about a little bit, and I was curious to hear more, is you said that you, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but what I heard was that you prefer submissive men. Why is that?
Yeah. So a couple things. I found that, okay, and this is not to say so I want to do, I call it the pre-gasm, which is the pre-frame.
So, I love it.
Thank you. You can take it. I got it from a reader. It's great. I love it. So the pre-gasm is not every submissive man is going to fit into the description that I am describing. And I am not implying that every submissive man should or does or is or can't or anything, but I am making a generalized statement, and it is not saying anything, but there are traits that I have noticed in a submissive man that I would say submissive man versus a non-submissive man. Number one is they're very attentive to me. And I like that a lot. They care so much about my feelings, my success, right? And they have that curiosity, right? So they are more centered on my needs, which I like, right? I mean, I do, but I'm not saying every woman maybe does. I like that. They follow through, right? They actually have, great plan, and I can communicate directly, more honestly with them of like, no, I don't like this, because I'm pretty blunt. I am, or direct. Let me say direct. And it could, for some people, it can be, ooh. So I have found more submissive men to be like much better receivers of me and my honesty without this, like shaming me, versus being like, thank you for letting me know. And then I can also be more emotionally open and loving towards them because they give that to me. They're very attentive for me, the follow through, and they like, serving me. They like it. And they don't, as long as I am also very, responsive to them, which I am, and I have learned to bring in that curiosity, because I'm not saying I was always like that, but I have learned that that's a good thing too, to give back, to ask questions, to really honor that they are helping me so much. Like, why don't we have that? And they're just really caring, and the follow through. And I think that a lot of them usually have a job or something where they are really on for quite a bit of time, length of time in their life with work or whatever, or they just like being in that role for me, and I'm cool. I like it. Thanks. It's I think a great thing. And it really also shows where their heart is. And I like being in charge, even if that is delegating, right? That's, but it's being able to have that, which I haven't necessarily had that if I'm with a man who wants to be in more of a dominant role. I've had to really push harder to get to be heard, which I can do, but I would rather not. Like, I have one life. I would like to be with people that want to actually hear me, and they're thorough, very detail oriented. I like that.
Yeah. Well, and so I think, this is a good example because, what I see a lot of times is a tendency where it can be very easy to say, like, here's the specific role that a woman or a specific role that a man needs to be in order for a relationship to come alive. But really, there are different flavors. I love that you did that pre-gasm, and that you put that as a good example, because it just highlights that a large part of it about the presence and the passion is that metness. That metness happens in part through curiosity and through being able to understand what our respective desires and wants and needs are, and being able to meet them with each other.
Yes. And so on one social media platform, I got a lot of hate when I expressed female-led relationships. So it is also keeping in mind that your relationship with your lover is yours, and it does not mean that it needs to be like your best friend. That's something that I actively teach to the people that I work with, that your relationship is unique. And there's so many different belief systems as well to incorporate, from families, from religions. So there's no way to compare. And I think that actually there are a lot of female-led relationships, but it's just not looked at in that way. Like, it's not labeled in that way, either because it's not socially acceptable, or they just don't title it that way. But I think there are a lot. And as society is waking up way more to the fact that, phones and screens, and, how there's been a huge drop of pregnancies, of children being born, and where's the connection, the discussion of female-led relationships is going to be a lot more popular. If you ask me, it seems that way in my content, but that may be just mine. But I think it will become a lot more socially normal, and also having the definition of what actually a submissive man means, because there are a lot of men who want that role in their, they enjoy it, they like it, it's a good thing, and there are a lot of other men that do not, and that's fine too. They can have their relationship the way that they want it. It's totally okay. But it's saying, this is what works for me and my lover. What you're doing is fine, but what we're doing is also fine, right?
Yeah, very much so. So we're getting close to the top of the hour, and I know we both have, speaking of scheduling, we both have our respective schedules, and so I want to honor that. I wanted to, I know you had a program or something that was coming up that you mentioned, you briefly mentioned at the beginning here, but I wanted to make sure we had a little space for that. And then I have a final question, well, two final questions I wanted to ask you.
Okay. Yes. Thank you so much for keeping us with the schedule and the time. That is something I admire in you. And something I am continually working on. Anyway, so yes, I have the Dirty Talk, which is on July 25th, and it's a 6-week group class of women only. I've had so many men try and join the community. And when I say community, let me define that just slightly. It is just people or women who identify as women. So if you're transgender, that's fine. If you're lesbian, that's fine. If you're single, that's fine. If you're heterosexual, that's fine. If you are married, that's fine. If you are not married, that's fine. It does not matter what religion you are in either, but it is just women who want to improve their sex skills with other women who want to improve their sex skills. So as much as they want to disclose about their sex life, it's fine. But I have found, if you are around other people doing the same thing, moving in the same direction, people learn faster and it's more comfortable. And if you've never done Dirty Talk, it is extremely, a lot of people struggle with that, moving that forward. If Dirty Talk seems so taboo for a lot of people, not just women, but even men, because we don't have people doing Dirty Talk usually all around us. I mean, I don't, but maybe other people do. But anyways, it's just not really normal to find that. So if you don't have that around you and you aren't seeking out like really good pornos from back in the day that did really good Dirty Talk, it is something that a lot of women or a lot of people really struggle to bring in. So I do the Dirty Talk. It gets you to the massive extended orgasm, right? From Mama Gina, which is my background. And that is creating the mental stimulation in the bedroom, having hot sex with your lover, and using language, right? And that is very powerful for a couple in a stimulating way, right? Like it can be humiliation, it could be sexy, it can be whatever the couple wants. But I do it in a group format where the women do the Dirty Talk with other women, right? So you practice, you get the words out. When you get the words out, it doesn't feel so awkward when you start doing this with your lover. And I think women should lead in the bedroom or whatever they want to lead in. This is a good thing. Take a step forward, be the leader. You do not need to sit back and relax and have mediocre sex. A woman can go out, improve her sex life, and lead her lover in the bedroom and be like, look, I want you to sit down over there and I'm going to talk dirty or whatever, advocate that. And so I teach women 6 weeks on how to do that, to own it, and bring in the language in their sex life. Otherwise, it's just two skins on top of each other, right? And there's none of the mental stuff, and which also helps relax a lot of people's minds by bringing also in the dirty talk. So I do a group class. It's fun, right? And it's other women talking dirty back and forth. So it doesn't feel so like disjointing, like, oh, it's my husband, I've never done it before. So you get over the hump, and then you can actually facilitate that in your own life. And that starts, hold on, July 25th, and it's 6 Saturdays.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that.
No, thank you for letting me share that.
It prompts a whole other thing which we won't have time to explore, but just the difference between leadership when it comes in the bedroom between male and female, and because there's a whole different thing there. But that's for another episode.
I know.
But I wanted to ask where people can find you on the web. That was the next question.
Yes, so it's the languageoforgasm.com. My calendar is up there, and you can grab the 69 dirty talk phrases also on my website. And that's it. It's a calendar. You make a booking. Also, I'm in school. It's SKOOL, and it's a women-only group that is growing, right? So keep that in mind, which is going to have lots of more classes with different instructors, but it's going to the school, the Language of Orgasm, which I have no clue what but you just go on school and look for the Language of Orgasm. It's there.
Okay, perfect. And finally, as we go forward into the day, this is a question I ask all my guests. What's a final word or phrase of wisdom that we can carry with us moving forward into the day?
Figure out, going back to the word passion, figure that out for yourself. Figure it out, what lights you up. Because if you don't, it impacts your mood, right? And having something to wake up and go do that you either love or hate or whatever, like whatever emotion, is a really good thing for a human being to have. And then incorporating that by showing up passionately also in your relationship. So owning it with yourself, starting with yourself, and then your closest, most intimate relationship, I think is essential. And getting clear on it, saying this is what I want to do and this is where I'm going, and then go. And if you're going to fail, we're going to fail. It's going to be whatever, but it's just going in that direction, having it there. And then you can pivot or change as needed, grow, and then ask yourself what resources constantly, if you get into a funk, what resources do I need to develop? What do I need to learn? What skills do I need to learn? And then figuring out how to do that.
Let's take a moment here and take all that in. And I want to thank all of you for being on here today. I want to thank you, Samantha, for taking some time with your schedule to be here with me. This was a lovely interview. And for those of you who get to see it later, there'll be show notes below, and the show will be coming out here in a little bit. But again, thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, Taylor. It's been great to be here with you, and you as well. I'm honored for the opportunity. So thank you so much.